My name is Jasmine Gavigan, and I am the founder of Virtue. In my last video, we talked about some of the theory around productization. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link that in the description for you to watch later. The short story is that one really effective way to scale your service business is to productize, which is just a difficult word, which means packaging your services in a way which is defined by your customers' goals. This video goes pretty quickly, but it covers a lot of ground. Check the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip to a specific section. If you'd like to follow along, we've created a free service design template on FigJam, which is a free collaboration tool made by Figma. You can access the template by clicking in the description or search for practical service product design in the Figma community. I'll walk you through that shortly. You can also use Miro, Lucidchart, or any other diagram software that you're comfortable with. And if you're more comfortable with Post-its and paper, that's absolutely fine if that's more natural. It's not about perfection. This is about you sorting out the big and small details of your process so that you can improve your process and achieve a better outcome for your client. Once you've mapped out the steps in your process, you're going to want to keep that momentum and build all the systems you need to deliver client value. We'll run through some of the high level options to have you thinking about how to sell your service product effectively through your marketing, your website, providing online billing and payment options, systematizing your communication, and using automated assistants such as for gathering information and for generating documents. If you're following along, you're going to want to grab the practical service product design template from the Figma community. The link is in description. Basically, just go to Figma, type in service product design, and then once it loads, you're just going to want to click on the duplicate button. It's going to open a new copy of the file in a new window, and you can make any changes that you need, delete anything, and it's yours to keep. Once you have the template open, we're going to look at the bottom half of the screen. So here I've created an example of what a service might look like for a specific professional. In this case, we're going with the example of a fictional trademark agent and a lawyer who we're calling Jane, which I know is very original. In this example, I've included some screenshots for Jane's website, examples of what emails may look like when they're sent, and mapped out a process for determining how to price different components of the service that Jane is building. This is not a complete example and definitely is not intended as a how to for the service that Jane is offering, but it should give you enough details to start working on your own to create your own service product template. So let's meet Jane. She is a completely fictional Canadian trademark agent and just left her equally fictional big law job and has decided to earn a little bit of money on her own. She loves to travel and wants to spend the least amount of time working as possible. So she's building the systems now to work towards that. She has a virtual assistant who performs all of her admin work and has plans on improving and automating the services that she provides and eventually growing out her team. But for now, she just wants to start with what she knows, which are brands and trademarks. The same process is going to apply for any type of service that you provide, whether you're a consultant, a real estate agent or lawyer, or some other kind of agent, or you're someone who's offering online courses and advice. This is more about how to look at your process like a product. So, the first step in turning your service into a product is to determine where your skills are. In Jane's case, she's a lawyer and a trademark agent in Canada, so she's going to focus her business on the intersection of those two skill sets. Once you determine the type of service you're best qualified to offer, look towards your market and the type of client you want to attract. Choose an industry or collective to focus on so that when you go to market your services, you're going to be able to focus on your specific ideal customer. This is going to both save you when you go to spend money on outbound advertising, but it's also going to help you develop a community of clients and other service providers who have the same wants, needs, and desires as you do. Jane our fictional trademark agent, has her home base in Ottawa and is a fan of the local craft and artisan scene. So she's decided to focus her attention on indie designers and brands in the Ottawa and Toronto area, where she spent most of her winter months. One of the most important but often overlooked aspects of marketing is your customer, especially for service professionals. Service professionals often focus on themselves in marketing, what their accomplishments are, what awards they've won, what schools they've attended. However, these things rarely have a direct impact on the customer who's receiving the service. Often, service may be better from someone who doesn't have awards listed on their email signature or maybe went to a lesser known school. Before creating a product, it's imperative that you look at your customer and try to build to their specific need. Doing this will help you ensure that your customer gets the result that they desire, and also the service you provide is effectively focused on that solution. Jane has modeled her customer avatar on her fictional sister Jordan, who is 24 and just finished at Queen's University last year and then moved home during the pandemic. She set up a fictional Etsy store to sell her digital goods, which is just blown up. She's got some viral exposure and wants a trademark to protect herself. She's never filed a trademark, and although she saw that she could do it herself online, she wants to avoid the risk and is concerned about the hidden costs after filing, even though it's her sister, and has a limited budget as she's putting her profits from her Etsy store back into growth and potentially hiring out. So, the client wants to protect her brand by filing a trademark. Next, Jane needs to build a process that will deliver that service. For physical goods, we would think of this as a supply chain. For every new iPhone you buy from Apple, there's a process which went into designing, producing, marketing, shipping, retailing, and servicing that phone after you purchased it. When you offer a service, you also have a supply chain. However, a supply chain for services has more of a focus on knowledge work rather than physical goods production. To create a trademark process or a product that her clients will find value in, Jane has to work backwards to both provide the service and provide that service with her customer in mind, which in the product side is delivery. If you're following along, remember, this is not something you'll be able to do in the afternoon, and it's definitely not something to do on your first try unless your service is really simple. Process mapping to create a service product is, well, it's a process. Start with the steps where you know, take a break, work with a colleague, and then take a look at your process again with fresh eyes. You can do these steps in any order, so feel free to jump around as you need to in order to get a complete view of your process. A good cadence for an existing business can be to spend 1 or 2 hours a week on process mapping twice a week. Don't put pressure on yourself to do it all at once unless that's your only job. Jane's process is actually multiple process, and yours will be the same way. That's one of the reasons why process mapping can be so difficult to get started because it's a little overwhelming. There are multiple places Jane could start mapping her particular service. Where I would start is by working backwards from the output that her client expects, which in this case would be a finalized trademark application. I would look at what information is needed to build that trademark application, where to get that information, how we would present it to the client, and develop a work stream to collect and use each bit of information we needed within that process. I would then go back and create any work streams which are connected to that process workflow. It's gonna be a confusing video to watch though, so what I'm gonna do instead is walk you through our fictional James simplified process to give you just a high level view of what would sequentially happen from the client's perspective. When you're mapping your own processes, jump around as much as you need to in order to connect the dots between your business operations. In your process, you're gonna wanna think of who is on your team. If it's just you, this will be easier. If your team has many people, you want to look at organizing your process in a way which shows who is responsible for what. In this super simple FigJam process map, we've done this by using different colored sticky notes. The client's tasks or actions are in red, the service professionals are in blue, and in this case, we're giving Jane a fictional assistant as well, using purple for those tasks that Jane would delegate to that person. Your process could be much more complex, include dozens of people in swim lanes, and use any number of connecting technologies. But every process starts off with a first step of process mapping. So that's what we're going to look at here. Building a service product. Outbound marketing is how many clients will find your services, or in Jane's in this case. Each marketing channel will have its own process or funnel to guide potential clients from, say, viewing the ad to actually engaging your services. You're going to want to reduce the effort your client needs to take at each step in this process. Doing this will help ensure that you convert more leads into actual clients and provide a good client experience right from the time they first encounter you. Outbound marketing can take many forms, but typical examples include things like a potential client seeing your ad for services and following a link from your social media. Or while searching on Google, they come across a blog post on a related topic you've posted about on your website. Or maybe a client who is a current client just refers someone that they know to you directly. It can be really easy to fall into the pattern of just getting repeat business, but doing so insulates your business from those people who could use your services if only they knew you existed. Jane has three main marketing channels: her Instagram account, where she has educational content related to brands and indie makers, including a link to her website; search results, where her clients find her website through blog posts and SEO; and referrals from other clients. Most purchase decisions in the modern age are influenced, if not made completely online. A modern, responsive, mobile friendly, and accessible website is a must for any business in the digital age. Your website is an extension of your brand and should both provide information to your clients and help them assist you in choosing your services, as well as providing a way for those clients to actually engage with you. A website shouldn't be a static ad, it should be a step in accessing your services. Your website is the front door to your digital presence. Try a modern website provider like Squarespace, Shopify, or Wix. Your website needs to allow your leads to at least contact you in a guided process specific to the service they require, if not actually allow them to pay for and engage with you directly. In the digital age, it isn't enough to gatekeep your services by requiring that potential clients call you or email you at a general line in order to request information. In order to provide services which scale, you need to reduce the touch points where your clients can potentially drop off because of poor process and where you don't collect information that you need to deliver service to them. In legal services, it's incredibly common for potential clients to call multiple law firms to request information, only to have none reply. This practice leaves clients frustrated and leaves revenue on the table for these firms. Don't do that. Make it easy for your client to request your services on your website while you have their attention. Make it easy for your clients to see what services that you offer, what they cost, and for them to engage you. Each service that you offer should have its own process, and that process should be linked to a page or ideally a button on your website. Make becoming your client as easy as your client clicking a button, entering some information, and paying with their credit card. Let's look at what that process would look like when the client selected to file a trademark on Jane's website. Build any formal requirements into your process, like gathering identity information as part of Know Your Customer practices and having clients agree to your terms of providing services upfront. In Jane's process, this step comes before proceeding to request her service. You could build in multiple checks and steps like this if your business needed it to. On each product page, you should provide information for your client to help them make the decision to hire you. This is where your niche and your customer avatar will come into play again. Each of your services can offer multiple options, and each of these options can have a different price point. For example, Jane could offer her standard trademark package and then allow the client to add on options like branding advice, a watch service to protect the trademark she was filing, and electing the option to register as soon as possible without waiting to hear of her instructions again. Jane could also offer options like a rush service to file the same day, or an add on for additional countries to file it through her partner firms. You'll notice that there's no pricing on these because everything is fictional. So just use your imagination and substitute your own service in place of Jane's. Allow your client to pay with their credit card and make it easy for them to engage with you. Most website providers will have payment plugins built in, or you can connect to an API if you need a more custom solution. If you're a legal service provider, There are payment processors who provide service specific to those niches, such as Law Pay and Gravity Payments. Other professionals may look to services like Stripe or other payment processors integrated with their website. Just make sure you check their terms of service to make sure that they allow your specific type of service. This is an important step for virtual service professionals. We are 2 decades into the 21st century, and clients expect to be able to pay with their credit card at a minimum, if not in crypto. Your process needs to account for that, and doing the work up front to automate your payments will greatly reduce the work that you would have to do otherwise in billing and potentially later in collections. Jane provides her clients with a receipt immediately after her payment processor processes the client's charge. Then, after the client has paid you, start the work. In traditional services, you provide service and then bill for your client by time after. With productized services, the client pays up front, which provides them with cost certainty and vastly reduces your administrative billing burden. In Jane's case, she'll send her client a link to her trademark intake form, and then the client would just fill it out. This emailing process is a manual process for Jane currently. She just writes an email and sends it to her client. With platforms like Virtue, however, you could automate many of these repetitive tasks with templates. Next up is to collect the information you'll need to perform your service. This will look different for every particular service you provide, but many of the services you provide will use overlapping information. So start with creating one form, then create specific variations if you require different information for different product streams. In an ideal world, these forms are online. Using online forms allows the client's answers to be saved to a database, and then that clean data can be used for other activities. If absolutely necessary, fillable PDF forms can be created. You can create the form in Canva for free, and then add fillable fields in something like PDF Escape with the ability to add e-signing through things like DocuSign. Some service professionals currently use things like Word documents or emails in place of forms to gather information. This is a thing that you should really avoid, as it requires that a person receive that email, transfer the data to another platform at least once, and assumes that all of this is being done quickly and without errors. If you undertake any project in 2022, let it start with converting your Word documents into forms. It's going to save you so much time, so much money, and make your service so much better. Jane has created 4 different form options, each to capture a slightly different set of information from her clients for this particular product. All forms collect the client's company information, who would be the applicant for the trademark. There are unique fields for every different form, though. Jane has a priority form, which collects foreign application and registration information, an automated form, which basically recreates the actual trademark application just in a nicer way, an industry form, which is geared to clients in Jane's particular niche and provides pre populated common goods and services which her clients may identify with, and a bespoke form, which collects a minimal amount of information from the client, with additional information being provided by Jane or later her staff. In Jane's example, she's created each of these as Google Forms, which clients are directed to after paying for their service. You can see an example of this form embedded in Jane's fake website below. In Jane's example, the information clients submit in the Google form is then saved to a Google Sheet. Jane has even set up some actions to occur when new entries are added to the sheet, which do things like creating intake forms to print, as well as sending confirmations to her clients. There are a lot of options to automate individual tasks once you start to break your process apart. If creating or programming all of these automations to yourself seems daunting, be sure to subscribe and check out Virtue. We've made creating these workflow automations easy and shareable. After her client completes the intake information Jade needs, she's then ready to start doing the work that she needs to do to prepare the final application. Now that you have the information you need, use it effectively to produce the initial deliverable your client expects from your service. In Jane's case, she has 2 paths to completing that service part of her service. She's currently creating and filing her trademark applications herself with the help of another agent. Her manual process includes creating a draft application using an online portal and then copying and pasting her client's answers into it, sending this draft to the client for review, and then manually making changes to the draft application, but only for clients who have opted for a bespoke service. For this, she uses an email template and includes a QR code link so that her client can scan and approve rather than responding in an email chain. And finally, Jane has a second agent review the draft application for completeness and to ensure it's error-free. Jane plans on automating the creation of the application and is looking at things like robotic processing software like UiPath to do things like that in the future. For now, though, she's manually creating and filing applications online. When creating your process, consider for each specific task who is the best person to perform it, what technology could be used to make it easier. Also, look at where the task occurs in relation to the other tasks, why the task is important, and how the task is to be completed. You can include all this information on your process map now, or you can go back and add each element later once you've determined where the task needs to occur.
And how long you expect the task to take in duration so that you can start determining overall how long your service will take to perform and deliver to your client.
We've seen as a result of the pandemic that many of the activities we thought were confined to the office can actually be performed remotely with help from technology. Look for creative solutions to traditional problems and get inspiration from industries outside your own if you get stuck. Creating or even just documenting a process can be overwhelming, so breaking the process into parts and adjusting as necessary can help ensure that your success. In Jane's service product process, after the application is filed, her assistant would then save the receipt and then record the filing details in the database by copying and pasting from the payment receipt. Let's talk about databases for a moment. A database is a place to store information. Excel is a database. So is Airtable and Google Sheets, as well as coded databases, which we won't get into. Different industries and professional groups may have their own databases. For example, some trademark lawyers like Jane may use IP software, which serves as a database. Platforms like Virtue can also be databases, with the added benefit of being able to collect that data to other tasks in a workflow. These databases may collect and use information in different ways. Some data is going to be manually typed or copied pasted in, such as when a client calls in and provides instructions in an email, which are then copied and pasted. This is a manual task, so make sure to add a task to your process for each of those data process points. Manual data entry has some risks, including errors in entry, duplicates, entries not getting made, and changes to the wrong records. Other databases may automate the collection and transfer of data. This is the preferred method as it ensures 100% accuracy and doesn't use your valuable people resources. The database can also contain copies of digital records like the fee payment receipt in Jane's example, which can then be associated with your client and with the service you're providing using metadata. Here, Jane has created an email template which confirms to her client that the application is filed and provides some information on when the client can expect to hear more details. Every service process will be different. Some will involve meeting with the client, either in person or virtually. Some services will take months and involve numerous stages and tasks, while others may be as simple as generating a document or answering a quick question. In Jane's example, the process to actually obtain a trademark will continue for several months beyond when the actual initial trademark application is filed. If you've chosen a niche for your services, it's likely you'll have other services which your client would find value in. Be sure to offer those options to your client and develop a business relationship with them by providing those value added services. The last step in Jane's trademark application service workflow is to report to her client that the application has been successfully registered. This is the point where the client receives the value of the service they initially requested and is the point where they're most happy. Jane makes it easy for her client to review the service, given this good news, by providing a QR code which links directly to her business's Google page. With a service business, providing good service usually means your client will return. In fact, for scalable services, you want to create services in your niche which complement each other so that you're able to meet your client needs and keep them coming back. Offering subscription services can be a great way to continue with a positive client relationship after an initial service. If you're a lawyer, you can also use these service products as lead generation for more profitable work. For example, Jane knows that the application is just a small portion of her client's IP protection strategy and can then offer to those clients monitoring, enforcement, domain services, litigation, as well as maintain that initial registration. These are the essential elements of most service product workflows. If you want to manage and automate your service product workflows, give Virtue a try. Virtue turns your workflow into an online product to help you run your service business virtually by itself. Try it for free at virtuelaw.com. This has been Jasmine, the founder of Virtue. I hope this video has provided some value to you and that you'll share it with your friends. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.